Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. About to start the show in just around 2 minutes. So sit back and relax and take notes, and you're going to be learning from a oil tycoon. His name is Steve Hightower. Good morning, Steve.
How are you?
I'm doing great. It's getting better each and every single day. How you doing?
Not bad, not bad.
All right. Can you see me good?
I can.
Okay, I can see you good, but your face a little fuzzy.
Mm. Is that any better? Let me see here. See my face. My face is a little. I think it's the light. Turn that light on. Is that enough light?
Yeah,
It's over there. Open those.
yeah, yeah. It's a lot more better. There we go. Where you calling in from?
Ohio.
Okay. All righty. And how's business going on with the pandemic and everything?
Yeah, it's pretty steady. Pretty steady.
Oh, that's good.
So give me the 411 on what to expect, what's going on, and when we go live. Are we going live? Is this just for pre-recording?
Yeah, actually, we'll be going live, and my audience definitely want to hear about your story from your humble beginnings to where you are today in the petroleum industry. And I'm going to be, asking you some questions about your business and how you basically, turn your whole life around to the oil tycoon that you became today.
Okay. And you say this is you broadcast globally?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I was looking at your impressive resume, and as I had to give Steve Hightower on my platform to give a value to my audience about the petroleum industry.
Okay.
Alrighty. And I was looking at one of your impressive interviews that you conducted in the past, and you was actually telling the gentleman that you are looking forward to growing the petroleum company to a multi-billion-dollar company.
Correct.
All
Yeah.
right, all righty. All right, and how's things going in that department? Is everything moving along in that direction?
It's moving in that direction.
All right, that's good. That's good. All righty. You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Arthur Robinson Jr. I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Interviews podcast. And today I have another special interview for each and every one of you. Today I have a wonderful person on the show. He's a great friend of mine. His name is Steve Hightower. For those that don't know Steve, let me explain to each and every one of you about this incredible, phenomenal man. Steve Hightower is the CEO of Hightower's Petroleum. Steve started his humble beginnings to where he is today, and he is the oil tycoon. And that is an awesome, impressive resume. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Steve Hightower to the show.
Thank you very much. I accept all of that except the tycoon part. There's real oil tycoons, and I'm striving. I'm not quite there.
I'd like to thank you, Steve, for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the audience worldwide about your phenomenal brand, Hightower's Petroleum, and about the gas and oil industry. I gladly appreciate it.
Well, it's been a journey. Something back in early, I guess around 1981, when I was just really shortly out of college in 79, 78, and working in my father's business, first in the janitorial business, which is what we grew up doing. And then I started an industrial supply company. And as I began to sell materials, not only to primarily to the state at that time, state of Ohio had a set aside program, and one of the items they set aside was petroleum. And as I was very transactional just from being in business with our family, I knew how to go get a subcontractor and bid any commodity or item that the state was bidding at that particular time. And just one day they put out the fuel, which BP basically at that time had pretty much controlled the market for the state for about 30 years prior to that. And of course, they were not able to participate in the set aside. So I found a supplier, I bid it. My first contract was the entire state of Ohio.
Mhm.
So that was the beginning of my opportunities in petroleum. About 3 years later, the bid went out for bid again, and BP called about seven African American companies to Cleveland, sat down with all of them. I had apparently enough game or conversation to be able to convince them that I was the proper choice. So they supported me for my PUCO hauling authority. I became a contract carrier for BP at that time and began to haul jet fuel for them to various Air Force bases and here in the state of Ohio. And that's when I changed from Landmark Supply Company Ltd. To Hightower's Petroleum Company. And at that point in time, we got our license as a licensed motor fuel dealer and began to actually operate in the business. Really didn't understand the business, really didn't know the business, didn't go to school for the business, nor had I worked in that industry. But I understood business. And the basically is being able to deliver the goods that are being asked for at a competitive price and paying your bills. And if you can just do that, those basic A, B's, and C's, then you have the pathway to be successful in business.
Mm. Now, you sell petroleum at the wholesale prices. Is that correct?
Well, you, we sell wholesale fuels, period,
Hmm.
which means that we don't sell to individual families and individuals' cars and things of that nature. That's retail. All right. So we sell to retail outlets, but we also sell to FedEx and we sell to Duke Energy. We sell to General Motors. We sell to Nissan, Kroger's, and many, many other trucking companies all across the country. Literally in every state in the US, also delivering in Mexico and Canada.
Mm. Now, I know that Iraq is the second largest oil, they had the second largest oil reserves in the world. Do you do a lot of business over in Iraq and in the overseas markets?
Well, it's quite interesting because I say 99% of the consumers don't understand the petroleum business.
Mm.
And I've had people, when I say I'm in a petroleum business, they say, "Are you talking petroleum jelly, Vaseline, all the way to, are you in Iraq and Iran?" Okay. There's a lot in between that. Okay.
Mhm.
Uh, all byproducts of the industry. Okay. But where we actually fit in the chain is after product is refined, which your Iraq, Iran, those types of people primarily produce crude oil from the ground, And that's what you're alluding to as far as there being the second or third largest producers of crude oil. That crude oil is then delivered to a refinery, refined, and then put into a pipeline, tanks, and then a pipeline, and shipped to various terminals around the country. We pick that product up at those various terminals and deliver it to the end users. That's the space that we deal with. Okay. And so if you look at General Motors as one of our customers, where every car that comes off the assembly line, before those cars could start, they've got to have at least 5 gallons worth of gas in it. Well, we sell every 5 gallons worth of gas to every car that comes off a GM assembly plant. We now do that for Nissan, and we also do that for Honda as well. And there's other OEMs that we're talking to. But then you start looking at Waste Management or FedEx. Those guys, they just don't show up without fuel, and they buy it in a wholesale basis. So our customers are just commercial customers, and that's the space of wholesale distribution that we play in.
Now, we have a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners in our pipeline where they're really thinking about getting into the gas and oil fields. From your perspective, is that where the revenue is mostly generated by people investing in gas and oil fields?
That's a higher risk category with a higher return category. Okay, much higher returns, but many of those people are bankrupt today. All right.
Wow.
And they're bankrupt because of there's a fixed cost to drill a barrel of crude oil. All right. So you bringing those rigs out, you got those people, you blah blah blah. All of that activity creates a fixed cost in order to be able to pull that product out of that ground. Fracking average fixed cost is somewhere around $50 to $55 per barrel. All right. So if you're running very good while the prices are at 60, 70, and we've seen barrels go up as much as $100 per barrel, and everybody's making a lot of money per barrel. When you're making anywhere from $10 to $50 per barrel, and your cost is only $55, those are good days. But when the market drops and down to where you can only sell it for $30 a barrel, that means that for every barrel that you produce and you sell, you're losing $20 a barrel or more. Okay. Wow. And so you can very quickly go upside down. And in most cases, many people over this past year actually went out. Okay. Of course, your BPs, your Exxon Mobils, your major oil companies, they survive. And there's other larger producers globally that will and have survived. But your smaller companies that's out there in the fields that were opportunists and making money, made a lot of money, lost it all.
Wow.
At moments. Okay. So it's risk reward in this industry, and you want to play where you're good at, and you're not good at everything. So you got to find where your niche is in this industry. And that has to do with your associations. You may not come across the individuals in the industry in Texas the same way I did in Ohio. Okay. In Ohio, we do have drilling. In fact, crude oil was first drilled and commercialized in Ohio by a man by the name of John D. Rockefeller, who started the Standard Oil Company, where you now see BP and Exxon and all of those other companies came from the Standard Oil Company here in Ohio. Most people think it came from Texas, but Ohio's got a little bit more going on than what people might think. Having said that, if I was in Texas, I might work in the oil fields in the summertime as a child. If I worked in the oil fields and that's my exposure, I might want to play in that sector of the marketplace because I've been exposed to it.
Mhm.
I wasn't exposed to that sector of the market. So that's why, I fell into the wholesale distribution. But you can become a retail store owner. Those are available. They're easy entry into the marketplace to learn it. It's the lowest hanging fruit. There's no reason why people can come from Pakistan, from all over the world, and take their families and run these businesses successfully, and an African American family cannot. It's just a
Mm.
matter of mentally, why not?
Mm.
And I haven't been able to quite um, give you the answer as to why we would not start where we could start and then move up from there, because that's where people that come from other countries without $5 in their pocket end up becoming entrepreneurs, just because they had that desire and burning desire to go out and do.
Mm.
um, it's like me entering this business. I was not welcome in the business.
Mm.
It was an opportunity, and I was opportunistic enough to take that jump and leap and get that first contract. But
Mm.
getting a contract don't put you in the business. What puts
Mm.
you in the business is you then immersing yourself into the industry and finding out and learning everything you can learn about that part of the industry that you deal with. And I was that guy. Okay, I was that guy who became a part of the Ohio Petroleum Marketers Association. That's the association where all other wholesale distributors in Ohio are. And then that wasn't enough, because I wanted more, and wanting more means that you got to go out and hustle more. So I joined Sigma, the Society of Independent Gasoline Marketers, which is a national association of wholesale distributors, marketers, as well as very large retailers. It's the industry.
Mm.
And by once I made up my mind that I was going to not just show up once a year at the national, but I was going to do the winter conference, I was going to do the spring conference, I was going to do the summer legislative conference, I was going to do the winter big conference, annual conference. Uh, a couple years later, everybody knew me. Okay,
Mm.
and I participated, and that's how I slowly began to be accepted into the industry, because I went on ski trips with them, I golfed with them, I dog sled with them, I went to Brazil with them, I went to Argentina with them, I went to the Soviet country of uh, Georgia with them, Turkey. I traveled. I went to, everything they did, I did too.
Mm.
What that did was gain relationships. All
Mm.
right. And it's a relationship business. And if they get to know you and you pay your bills, of course, and you can operate professionally, then they will do business with you. And that's really our biggest barrier, is how do we get on the inside?
Mm.
And this is not unique to the petroleum industry. This is any business. That if you really want to be in that business, you have to immerse yourself in the industry. And the industry has these organizations that support the industry. And that's where they go to learn. That's where they go to network. And that's where you need to be, in the middle of that networking. I don't care if it's broadcasting, there's a broadcasting organization, okay, that all the broadcasters go to. All of everybody that do what you do is someplace 1, 2, 3, 4 times a year. Uh, it may be virtually right now, but they're still meeting. Okay, and and you got to participate, and that's how you grow into an industry. That's how you become accepted and known into an industry. And if they don't know you, you can't go very far.
Mm. That's a powerful statement he just made in regards to, learning the industry, whatever industry that you're willing to pursue. So once people like you, respect you, and they feel as though they know you, that's when their minds are made up and they want to invest in you because you are your brand.
Well, it's not a matter of investment. I mean, I've found it very, one of the things that you find with people with money, uh, they'll give the birds, they give the bees, they give the trees, they give to a lot of charitable organizations for, music and everything. Very seldom do you see them giving money to brothers and sisters. Okay,
Mm,
that's just not what they see as philanthropic. Okay,
mm.
so
Wow.
no one gave me any invested in me other than time and
Mm,
opportunity.
mhm,
Okay, and if you can understand that someone's time and the ability to get that opportunity is more valuable than them giving you a dollar, then you can understand that it's a journey and not a short trip. Okay,
mm,
and that's how you get there. It's grueling. It's struggle. If you don't have the heart, you might as well stay home because every day is not going to be a good day. And when you think it's going to happen tomorrow, it might take another month or 2 months, and it could even take another year. And you got to be willing to say, if that's what it takes, I'm willing to do what it takes to be successful. And there's been many contracts that's taken me up to 5 years to gain, and in some cases, even longer.
mm. Wow. Now, earlier you mentioned about, business is all about, building relationships. That's extremely important if you want to excel your business to the next level. What advice would you give a 20 or 30-year-old that basically wants to get into the petroleum industry? And they came to you and they said, Steve, I'd like to be, coach or mentor by you by learning what you know and eventually turning in the dough. What advice would you give a 20-year-old, 30-year-old that is really serious about getting into the petroleum or oil industry?
Well, assess where you're at geographically and mentally, and set your bucket down right there and start. Okay, um, because we all start in different places with different opportunities to be successful, but we got to engage. All right, which means you got to start. And where do you start? It depends on what it is you're trying to do.
Mhm,
And so we could talk in terms of the petroleum industry
mhm,
as where I might start if I want to do petroleum,
mhm,
but it doesn't matter what industry that is, the basics are the same. Finding out what successful people do that has been successful, if you pattern that versus what people who have started and stopped, started and stopped, started and stopped, and never have gotten to where they needed to go, what are those characteristics?
mm,
And many of our younger mindsets today are that I can get a little bit here and then I'll climb over here, then I'll climb over here, then I'll climb over here. But what you find is you never get rooted anywhere.
mm.
And if you never, if a tree grows without any roots, it's easy for it to fall over.
Absolutely.
And you can't get roots in a year just because after a year you think now you know the business, you know everything, and you could go out and do your own thing. A year you just found out what the business was about. It's
Mm,
almost like a child.
mm,
And if a baby has to have a lot of care, all right, and it takes a lot of attention, and you got to have your hands on them, okay, all the time. That's your business as a baby if you're growing a business. As that baby grows and it becomes a young uh, child, 7, 8 years old, then that business is at least now still need guidance, okay, but it can walk, all right, and it can walk on its own. As it become a teenager, then you're actually out there marketing and you actually have employees, and you're actually able to do some things, and maybe have a lifestyle, because now you're at least making money. As an adult, you're mature, and that business now is taking care of itself. Okay. I can sit here while I have employees managing my business, even though I still have oversight, even though I still got my hands on it. I don't have to do all those things that I had to do when it was a child and when it was a baby.
Mm.
And if you look at your business in the same way, whatever business that is, you got to understand it takes more time. It takes, just being there 24/7, basically giving your all to get that child up to a grown adult. Okay. And that's how I look at this business. Our business is now mature. After 40 years, okay, of being in business, it's old enough that it should be running and operating in a manner that someone should be able to look at it and say, hey, you've built a pretty good person out there. Okay, you've built a good business. And you, as that entrepreneur, every day have the option to do the right thing or do the wrong thing, to pay your bill or not pay your bill. If you don't want to pay your bills, you're not going to be in business, period. And guess what? Just because you did not pay that one supplier, remember, is in that whole group of people that you go see 4 times a year. And he tells all of them. So you're blackballed from the industry. Okay?
Wow.
Well, you already walk in being the only African American in the room to start with. All it takes one, and they'll start pointing. No, you don't want to deal with him. No, you don't want to deal with him. Or, yeah, he's a pretty good guy. You can do business with him. We do business with him. Okay. And that was a kind of affirmation that I had to continue to get time and time again, as I was growing up through this industry. I literally had to have someone that I had done business with or was in that association with that would have to come into another audience where that I was standing defending myself to say he's okay. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. And it takes them being comfortable with you. And how do they get comfortable with you? How do you get comfortable with them? It's hanging out with them, right? Doing what they do, right? And it's not that difficult. It's not that hard. Because people at the end of the day are just people, and nobody likes a butthole, and everybody likes a decent guy. At least I don't mind you being around me, okay? And if I don't mind you being around me, I can get to know you. And if I can get to know you, I can do business with you.
Yes, people, they love doing business with people that they like, respect, and trust. And then that's when, transactions happen, when they develop that trust factor with you and your brand. Steve, let's have a conversation about what it really takes to be an entrepreneur. Now, the word entrepreneur means entreprendre, and it was a Latin word, and it was invented in the 15th century in France. And a gentleman by the name of John Baptist, he invented the word, and over 300 years later, that word still exists, which is entrepreneur. So entre means between, and ponder means to take. So it means to take lower productivity and increase it to higher productivity. Can you explain to the audience how are you increasing your productivity in your petroleum business?
The way you increase productivity is having quality people.
Mm.
And having quality people is not necessarily your wife and kids or your cousin and your best friend. It's the best possible person for that position that you can afford. And remember, I mean, I said a lot there. The best possible person that you can afford. Right? Because when you have that baby may not be kicking off enough revenue to be able to get a top-notch person. Okay? that wants to make $130,000, $150,000. All right. You might not even be able to afford $65,000 right now. Okay. As you start that business, but you got to get the best possible person, black, white, indifferent, Chinese, whoever that is, that's best at what they're doing. That's who you want to be able to get. And then no one does 100% of their business. There's subcontractors, there's insurance, there's all kind of components that make up a business. The part that you perform, even if that's just taking an order and invoicing, do that well. Do that little piece well. And then you add on, okay, now we're going to start monitoring. All right. Now we're going to start doing, maybe doing some inventory. Okay. Each component that you perform, even if you're subbing the rest of it out, do your part well. All right. Because that allows you to live another day and to have a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And if you take pride in your output, pride in who you are and how you want people to see you, then you'll tell the truth when it's time to talk to someone. You'll be there on time when it's time to have those meetings. All right. And then you'll remember who's the boss. And typically the boss is who pays your bill. And who pays your bill is your customer. Money comes from your customer. So if you think that you're going to be an entrepreneur and that you don't have a boss no more, then you need to still go keep doing what you were doing before, because you won't last in business very long. All right. Because I need you to do something for me, and I expect you to do it the way we've, talked about getting it done. Well, if you're your own boss and you say, well, I'll do it tomorrow because I don't feel like getting up today, and because I got my own business, I can do that. You ain't gonna keep me as no customer. Not only am I not gonna pay you, you ain't not gonna have the money to pay the baby.
That's facts. So happy customers are loyal customers. They keep coming back to you, wanting your products or your service.
We have customers for 15, 20 years and counting. Okay. The very first customer that I ever had, the state of Ohio, I got that customer 40 years later. All right. You don't keep customers if you don't show up with the fuel. Period. And you can't even get fuel if you don't pay your supplier. Period. All right. So you have to treat your suppliers just like a customer, and you also have to treat your customer as a customer. All right. And you have to know who you are. It doesn't make you lesser of an individual. All right. It will build you up to be that giant that you're looking for, because you have become what you've talked about being, okay, by being that consistent, honest, dependable, and reasonable person that I want to do whatever service it is that we need to have done. And you always show up when it's time to show up. You don't let me run out of fuel. What if FedEx ran out of fuel today because I didn't show up? Kept saying I'm gonna show up, and they ran dry and their trucks couldn't run. Or school buses had kids on it, and because we didn't fill up the buses, the kids are stopped in the middle of the city because the bus ran out of fuel because we didn't do our job. Or Duke Energy would, in their generation, and we're bringing in, product in order to keep those big turbines running to keep millions of people heated. What happens if you don't show up with that fuel? In every case, it's your last day at the office. Okay.
Wow.
It's just the way it is, man.
Wow. Steve, I appreciate you coming on my show today, because the whole premise of my show is to educate entrepreneurs and business owners on a national, international scale, that they can live the life that they truly desire, but they have to be open to these important principles. So I don't like what I see what's on the news. So I create my own news.
Okay.
Steve, let's talk about the tax incentives that entrepreneurs and business owners can actually generate by getting into the petroleum and gas and oil industry. Now, some people, if their pockets are long, they may want to put, $100,000 in, to a company. And I guess they want to buy shares into that gas and oil company. Let's say it's Exxon or Luke Oil or things of that nature. What type of tax incentives that entrepreneurs can actually generate by getting into the crude or the petroleum industry?
Well, I'm not a tax expert, number one. I'm not an accountant.
Mhm.
And I, in the part of the industry where there are tax incentives, is in the exploration and extraction of crude oil from the ground,
Mm,
okay, of which we do not do.
okay.
There is no tax incentives for what I do every day.
Mm,
I show up and I do my job, and people hire me because we do our job and our customer service. Obviously, pricing has to be there as well. So I can't really address that as it relates to this industry.
mm,
And it's definitely no tax incentives to do business with Black folks. So
mm,
I've never been a tax, uh, I've never been a incentivized, nobody's ever been incentivized to do business with me nor send money to me because I would be a tax break. So that answer is really elusive to me.
mm. Now, I seen a fascinating interview that you did a while back, and I'm hearing that Texas is like one of the largest producers in the oil industry, but you actually said that Ohio is one of the big producers. Would that be accurate?
Well, Ohio was the first
Mm,
uh, where crude oil was first commercialized,
mhm,
was between Ohio and Pennsylvania,
mm,
okay, by a gentleman by the name of Nelson D. Rockefeller,
mm,
who posted up in Cleveland and put his world headquarters,
mm,
but under the Standard Oil Company. And the Standard Oil Company was broken up by the federal government for, I want to say, antitrust is the
mhm,
proper word, and they broke them up. And when they broke them up, that's when Texaco was made, that's when Mobil was made, that's when Exxon was made, and a few others. I think Conoco, Phillips possibly, but they all came from the company in Ohio that was forced by the government to split up because they controlled it all. They controlled the railroad, they controlled the barrels in which the product was shipped. That's why they referred to it as barrels, but they actually had a barrel making. John D. Rockefeller, the Standard Oil, actually made his own barrels. They had their own rail. They managed and had their own rail. They did everything. They
mm,
controlled it all, and the federal government broke them up. So that's when you start seeing these people start moving elsewhere into the rest of the world. Now, is there more reserves in Texas today? Probably by sheer land mass, but mostly because of offshore. Most likely, absolutely. Uh, but Ohio is still has a lot of oil reserves in the eastern part of Ohio that runs all the way up into Pennsylvania. Okay,
mm.
huge find. Okay, uh, more than enough that it'd be there when you and your babies and your grandbabies is gone.
Mm.
Plenty of it.
Mm. Now, I also looked at another powerful interview that you did, and you was conveying a lot of value about in the beginning, and you actually had some years in, you basically, generated 235 million in your business without getting a bank loan or a line of credit from the bank. Can you explain to the audience how did that all come about? And, you know, was that hard for you to generate that kind of income without getting any lending capital from outside resources?
Um, the one good thing about my background and exposure is my father worked at Armco Steel, which today is AK Steel, which most recently has been bought out by Cleveland Cliffs, in fact. Okay. But he worked there for 40 years. And my mother, she also had a job. But while my father worked there for 40 years, in 1956, he started a janitorial business. So simultaneously, he worked, he had his janitorial business and he worked around the clock in the steel mill. All right. Basically putting in 18 to 20, hours a day.
Mm.
We were able to go out and I can get a car. I can, be down in Florida, call and get a timeshare, $5,000, you know, pretty, people would loan you stuff. I mean, we had a really good living. But when you turned and said that you wanted to be a contractor first, and then you want to be in the petroleum business, you couldn't buy a truck. Okay. You couldn't, you just was not supposed to come from being a janitor to being in the petroleum business.
Mm.
Banks in Ohio and everywhere I went, okay, but primarily here in the Southwest Ohio, continue to say no, okay? And you think you're doing $50 million, you ought to be able to go get something,
Mm.
but they still said no. You get to $100 million, you get to $125 million, and you go to the banks and say, here, finance this. They still say no, okay?
Mm.
And I look back at that, and it took me all the way up until I got to 235 million in revenue and didn't need their money. That when they finally came in, other banks came in and basically called themselves rescuing us from the banks here in Southwest Ohio who wasn't doing anything and got our first commercial bank loan. Okay, line of credit, I should say, bank line of credit.
Mm.
What do you do if you're starting out like me, like 90% of your audience, and they can't get that loan? You got to figure it out.
Mm.
The way I figured it out was there's a instrument within a bank called a lockbox.
Mm.
And as long as and what I found out was very quickly and very early is that what people want to be able to do is get paid. They don't want you to go out and they sell you some product, say to the state of Ohio, $20,000, $30,000, and then you get the money and then go pay your house bill, or you go to Miami and go on vacation or something with their money. Okay, because you're not a known quantity yet. You're a credit risk.
Mm.
So if you could have your supplier or your customer send that to the bank, to your bank, a post office box such and such, in the name of Hightower's Petroleum Company, that bank then has the instructions to deliver that X amount of cash to that supplier. Now that supplier is okay with that. As long as that money's going to the bank and they're going to be able to get their money from the bank, I get my portion, then I was able to get product. I
Mm.
leveraged that banking instrument of just making sure the supplier was comfortable that they could get their money to over and over again, and then doing it with other people all the way up to $235 million.
Mm.
Okay. Basically. Okay. And so you got to be creative when people are putting obstacles in your way. And you got to have the heart, a little bit of knowledge, but mostly the heart to go through all of those daggers and those obstacles and everything that they're going to put in the middle between you and success, and still figure it out and keep on going. Because most of us will quit, stop, go get a job, okay, or cut somebody out, or, and blame the whole world, but they will never get to their goal. So you got to
Mm.
have a heart You got to use some wisdom. You got to understand people's human nature. They just want to get paid. How can I make sure you get paid and I can still get the product to do what I got to do over here? I
Mm.
leveraged that. And right hand didn't necessarily know what the left hand was doing, but I kept on doing it. And I kept on doing it until once they looked up, the first guy was awful surprised to know that I didn't really need him anymore.
Mm.
Okay. And that's the second thing, but most important thing, that don't just have one hole. Because they say it's a poor rat that's only got one hole. Okay. And if you only got one supplier, if he's mad at you, or he thinks you're getting too big for your britches, or he don't want you to have this because he's determining your destiny, then you're really not really in the business.
Mm.
So you got to stretch out as quickly as possible, getting multiple suppliers such that one man don't stop your show.
Mm.
Period. Or woman.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of women out here that you have to buy from as well. Okay.
Mm. So commit first and figure the rest out later.
Figure it out.
Mm.
Go.
Wow.
And as you're going, you'll learn. Not
Mm.
only will you learn, they'll learn you.
Mm. Well, I love what Warren Buffett says. He said, the more you learn, the more you earn.
That's right.
Steve, can you explain to the audience in layman's terms, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
Probably the best advice, because I give it, is you can't put a time frame on success.
Mm.
All right. Success will happen in its own time, not your time.
Mm.
All right. And if you're going to start in business and say, well, I'm going to give it 6 months to a year, and if I'm not successful, then I'll probably go back and get another job. Then why start? Why are you wasting your time? Okay. Because you cannot determine that time. You could get hit by a boulder tomorrow and hit the lottery in 10 days, you're a success.
Mm.
Okay. That could happen. All right. But most likely it's going to take months and years.
Mm.
And do you have the stamina, okay, to sacrifice your own pocket, your own family, all right, to get to where you got to go? Which in most cases, minority entrepreneurs, you may have to be doing multiple things. That's what I did. People used to say, you don't know what you want to do. Well, I was still in the janitorial business. I took that, started a construction business out of it. I was doing both of those. I started doing a construction cleaning company. Okay. Then I started doing industrial materials. And that's where how I kind of stumbled across the petroleum piece. But you know, then I was still doing other things. All right. Because with this don't work, this is going to be working. If I can get a nickel over here when I'm getting zero here, then I still at least got a nickel. And then all of a sudden a dime came in over here because I was doing multiple things. I was doing what I had to do in terms of hustling, working longer hours, possibly. Okay. But not letting other people tell me what was successful and not successful, or that I could only do one thing, even if that meant that I starved and went bankrupt. All right. They're not going to pay those bills. So I'm not going to listen to you to tell me that I only have to do one thing. I've never done one thing. Okay. So that I think that people who, whatever industry that you are in, whatever it happens to be, learn how to diversify within that industry. And I use the analogy of football as a quarterback. You want to go deep and not wide. Okay. You don't penetrate going wide. Okay. And when I say go, what does that mean? If I want to get deep into the petroleum industry, I'm not trying to do electrical supplies and doing food services and doing house rentals and then car sales. What I'm doing is I'm doing wholesale fuel. Then I want to do oils and lubes, and then I want to do liquid gases. I want to do more in that industry. I want to get deep in that industry. fleet cards, okay, all the other things that we offer in that cylinder, all right, I am now deep into that cylinder, all right. I could have never gotten deep into that cylinder if I had kept going wide with something new, something different, something totally unrelated to the field that I'm dealing with. So X amount of years later, you could look at a Hightower and say, wow, he's really in that business. He's pretty deep. You might not have said that if I was doing 28 other different types of, commodities,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's true.
You want to be an announcer. Okay, Steve, that's your day job. Go back to your day job, Steve. Okay, be the announcer. Okay, because you're doing things that you ain't really control and you're not good at.
Mm. So as entrepreneurs and business owners, it's good to, focus on building your baby and let that baby, grow into a great phenomenon. But it's also good to focus on other multiple flows of income while you're still building your brand. And your brand eventually will be, growing into its own by having its own brand identity.
It'll create its own identity by what you do.
Mm.
Again, the point of going deep into that cylinder is just do more of that versus doing a little bit of this over here, a little bit of this over here, and a little bit of this over there. Okay, do more of that. And there's a lot of things within, as I described to you earlier. Um, you know, I am looking at expanding into the upstream, the crude oil and the LNG. Okay,
Mhm.
but that's still in my space. It's still in my cylinder. Okay,
Mhm.
it's not getting into IT or trying to become a manufacturer of automobiles. Okay, it's more of what I do, and that makes you deep in the subject matter in which you're working in.
Mm. Well, that's powerful that you're dominating that sector, in regards to the petroleum industry. Steve, let's have a dialogue about money. Now, I know money is not value. Money is just a facilitator to do transactions. Can you explain to the audience how would you define money?
Um, I define it as street money, legitimate money, and real money.
Mm.
Okay, there's a lot of brothers and sisters on the street that carry around $300 or $400. Okay, that in their sphere, big time, they balling. Okay? You got that next layer of people who have $200,000-$300,000 homes. Wife works, husband works, both of them got good jobs. They're both professionals, making $200,000 to $300,000 a year. Take trips, do everything they want to do. Okay, but they really, in reality, is just lifestyle.
Mm.
And then you got those people that got their names on the hospitals because they gave them $1 million or gave $5 million over here. Or you look at Brother Smith, who gave the African American Museum $21 million as a contribution, and at the same time gave the national parks another $40 million, and then gave X amount of millions over here. That's wealth.
Mm. Wow.
Okay? And so what's real and where are you really trying to get to? And when you see me talk about trying to get to $1 billion company, it's not going to happen by chance. It's got to be very deliberate. And you got to have a plan, and you got to take that plan, and you got to be trying to get there, or you're not going to get there. If you want to be $1,000 business, okay, then that's where you're going to be. If you're trying to be $1 million business, you got to be trying to get there. If you want to be $1 billion business, if you're not trying to get to 2 billion, you will never get there.
Mm,
The path along the way is not going to ever be easy because it's never going to be just given to you. All right.
mm,
But it's obtainable. If that guy over there that might have blue eyes and pink ears, all right, but goofy as heck can do it, why can't you?
mm. Wow.
All right. And yes, the door might be a little wider, but every time they crack it, I make that crack bigger. Okay, because I'm up in it. And I stay up in it. Okay. And I
Mm,
make that door wider and wider until now I'm inside.
mm. Wow.
You gotta be trying, it's gotta be deliberate.
Mm. You said it has to be deliberate. So, as entrepreneurs and business owners, if they really focus on, increasing their skill level and focus on their earning potential, they can actually take their skill sets to a whole nother level as long as they're teachable and coachable.
Well, yes, teachable, coachable, willing to learn.
Mm,
If you know everything, it's not, it's kind of difficult
mm.
because I
Wow.
can't nobody tell you nothing.
Absolutely. See,
So listening is much more important than speaking most of the time
mm,
when you are in a business atmosphere. Because if you can hear what the customer or your advocate is actually saying,
mm,
then you can respond to what it is that they really want versus trying to give them what you want them to have.
mm,
And too many of us go in with what we want them to have, never listening to what they really want. And we don't get to sell because we wanted to give them what we wanted them to have versus what they were really asking for.
mm.
Really got to be real sensitive to what is your customer saying. Uh, do I even have what they are asking for? And being open and honest with yourself and them at that particular time.
Mm. So entrepreneurs and business owners, they had to focus on developing systems and processes. And as long as you have the right people that can implement those systems and processes, eventually your brand will excel to the next level.
You know, some people have the privilege of working in corporate America where they learn structure and they learn business.
Mhm.
Many of us, we have to learn corporate America from the outside by trial and error.
Mm,
And, you know, the good news is it can be learned.
mhm,
Will you make mistakes? Absolutely. Don't make those mistakes twice. Okay.
mm,
Learn from those little errors that you have to continue to make to penetrate inside that door. Okay. Because it makes you better for the next door that you're getting ready to go into. All right. And you never stop going into doors because that's what you do every day as a business owner. You out market, you're
mm,
marketing, you're hitting opportunities every day. All right. Um, you're being denied every day. You know, you're being challenged every day. Okay, this is where the heart comes in at because now I'm getting tired of being beat up and still ain't got no money. But yet at the same time, I can see my goal and I know what it is that I really want. So therefore, I have to continue regardless of how bad it looks or how hard it seems. I'm still going, and that is where you have to be not only in your mind but in your heart such that even when it doesn't look like it's going to be a tomorrow, you get up today or you go to bed today, you get up and you find out tomorrow is still there and it's okay.
mm. I agree with you. You have to develop that heart and you have to develop that mindset where you actually going to win. It's like you got to develop that champion mindset where you're never going to give up and you're never going to quit. Because if you quit, you're never going to know how far that you actually could have went if you would have just put your boots to the ground, so to speak, and just implement the work. I believe that knowledge is not power. I believe that the implementation of knowledge, that's what makes it become powerful.
Right. Absolutely.
Steve, let's talk about delegation. Now I know the minimum wage of a millionaire is around $524 an hour. So I always tell my listeners, what can you delegate for $524 an hour? Or you can go way beyond that. What can you delegate that's within your current budget? How important it is for entrepreneurs and business owners to delegate tasks out that they're not currently good at so they could just focus on increasing their top line revenues in their businesses.
You know, there's two things that an entrepreneur, if they had the opportunity to go back and do, is take accounting and to take management courses,
Mm,
because and probably one of the more important ones is speech and communications.
mm,
I say speech and communications because any leader that you could speak on, okay, typically is a pretty good orator. They
mm,
can speak well. You rarely find, leaders. Okay, I mean, people make money and be successful, and not everybody is good speakers and all that kind of stuff. But as a core, an advantage that you would have if you're able to communicate effectively, people will follow you. Okay, and you can communicate your message effectively when you're in a sales scenario. Okay,
mm,
so speech and communication is one of those baseline skills that you really need to be able to have. All right, because that also helps you interact with your employees. All
mm,
right, because you can't talk to people any old way and get them motivated to make you money.
mm,
Because if they're mad at you and they don't like you, they'll probably hurt you before they help you. All
mm,
right.
mm,
They'll hurt you at the very wrong time in the most wrong way. Okay. At the most inappropriate time. And that could be your family member that you probably shouldn't have hired to begin with, or it could be an employee that's trusted and it's just not what you do. Okay. It's definitely just not what you do.
mm,
So it's a matter, it's in terms of being able to talk to your employees and delegate where they don't need your oversight. I, that they're motivated by seeing what you do
mhm,
and how you handle them, that they're willing to do more and go beyond in some very difficult times where people could just walk out the door,
mhm,
but they'll go into the trenches with you. That takes being sincere with your employees, caring about them,
mm,
them knowing that you care about them, not superficial. Okay, I love all of you. Okay, no, if something's wrong, making that call, seeing that they're all right. Okay, looking out for them. I mean, if every day's not a good day, uh, just dealing with people as real people, and many African Americans can't get that in many corporate and all white organizations.
mm,
Okay, they don't get that feeling of you care about me. All
mm,
right, or you care about my feelings or my family or where or my issues. My car's not running. I mean, you if you tell me get to work anyway, and I don't have transportation, you know say something else other than just get to work or you're fired. I mean,
mm,
what kind of person is that? Okay.
mm,
But most importantly, what is that person going to do for you when you really need it?
mm. Wow. That's absolutely true. Now, you have been blessed through the higher power, which is God, where you've actually built, a successful petroleum company, and you're the CEO of that company. And I know a lot of people play a lot of roles in a multi-million or multi-billion-dollar company. The COO was the chief operating officer. They had to make the CEO look good, and the chief financial officer and the chief marketing officer. Can you explain to me and the audience about what are the key roles of a CEO, a COO, or a CMO?
What's a CMO?
A CMO, a chief marketing officer.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Every, I would say the titles themselves, somewhat is self-explanatory.
Mm,
I think the hard part is the business owner being able to allow those those boxes to operate autonomously. And the only reason why they shouldn't operate autonomously if they ain't doing a job.
mm,
And when they're not doing a job, and you got to be side by side with them to get their job done, then they should be on their way out the door,
mm,
regardless who they are, family, friends, or whatever.
mm,
So it's you know, I had to, and I say I had to, I got a board of directors, okay? And the board of directors began to say, Steve, you need to go up here and become the CEO and let your COO and your CFO, and we didn't have a CMO, but CIO, okay, allow them to do the business instead of you managing that and being in the weeds every day, and learn how to work on your business instead of in your business.
mm,
And that was hard for me
mm,
because it looks like, I'm being pushed out.
mm,
And then I had to get in my mind, rather than being pushed out, you're being pushed up.
mm,
Okay. And when you get pushed up versus being pushed out, then you're able to see the forest, for the trees, because you're on top of the forest, you're looking down into it. And
mm,
when you begin to manage from that hierarchy, allowing everybody to do what they're doing rather than trying to do their job,
mm,
okay, then it becomes a little clearer in terms of those things you can tweak in your organization, and begin to make your organization better, because now you're working on tweaks, okay, things that need to get better, okay, versus trying to be that person who has to do it every day, all day long.
mm. Now, I know you're probably familiar with the big brand Zappos. The owner name is Tony Hsieh, and he sold the company for $1.6 billion. But unfortunately, approximately 2 years ago, Tony Hsieh passed away, and they're located in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he was real big on culture. And if a certain employee don't fit into the culture, they actually pay you $3,000 just to leave, because one bad apple can spoil the bunch, because they don't fit into the culture in regards to their bylaws. How important it is for entrepreneurs and business owners when they're building a brand, and their brand is becoming successful, is already successful. How important it is for entrepreneurs to really focus on building culture, and is culture very lucrative for the business itself?
Well, every business has a culture, whether it's a good culture or a bad culture,
Mm,
okay? There's a culture, all
mhm,
right?
mhm,
Just by being what culture is, okay? It is absolutely true that one person can disrupt the entire organization, and
mm,
and have it on its heels. Just one person in that organization can do that, and it is very, you know, being able to act and identify that
mhm,
as quickly as possible. I've not always been good at that. Okay.
mm,
However, we always get to that end. And once that person is removed, you really see all of that drama just leave. It's almost like, unfortunate, maybe some of your audience may not look at it like this, but you take a Donald Trump out of the White House, then all of a sudden things are calmed down.
mm,
News is different. Okay.
mm,
Every morning is not a new drama, okay,
mhm,
being played out. Okay.
mhm,
But that was his culture.
mm,
And once that culture is now out of the White House is now calm again. And it's back to what most Americans look at as a normal executive White House culture.
mhm,
All right.
mhm,
Which was totally dismantled, totally it go with everything that you thought about the White House and being the president and see, of these United States was totally off. And everything around him was off. Went in that same crazy circle. Okay. I shouldn't, again, I don't know your audience, so I apologize for those that may be offended by that. However, it is a very good example of what two CEOs can create in the same job, in the same position, in the same country, the same White House, and how drastically different those cultures are.
Mm. Well, I love, providing value to people. And I know my strength is, connections, and connections eventually, as you build those relationships, connections leads to, generating currency. And what you just laid out is extremely important with, one bad apple can spoil it for the rest of the bunch if they have a toxic mindset. And, I have a simple mantra where I allow no negativity in my life. And if you are negative, I pray for you, but I just can't be around that because that energy starts to basically rub off on you. And money is simply energy. Steve, what mistakes are you seeing that entrepreneurs and business owners are making that are in the gas and oil industry?
Um, there was, well, in the sectors that I deal with, gasoline is gasoline. My gasoline is the same as the guy next door, which is the same as the guy across the country, and your car is going to use the same gasoline that I have. If it's 87 octane, it's going to be 87 octane. If it's 91, it's going to be 91. That's standard because it doesn't even get into the pipeline to go to the various places across the country without it meeting that standard. Okay. So, um, we work on very thin margins,
Mm,
okay, in the petroleum business because we got the same product.
mm,
Okay. And a lot of people want to get into the petroleum business because they see big dollars.
mm,
Okay. But they don't understand that most of those dollars are the cost of goods sold.
mm,
You're making 3 cents, 4 cents, penny sometimes. You're paying out $2, $2.50. So the illusion coming into the wholesale distribution business of fuel is that I'm gonna make a whole lot of money.
mm,
Well, first of all, it's credit risk adverse because fuel goes one way. Once you put it in your car, once it goes in that pipeline, once it goes into whatever, it never goes back. Even
mm,
coming out of the ground, everything is that way, one way. Everything about it is one way. And and by it being the type of commodity that it is, um, people just think they're going to go get in it and make a lot of money. And that's just not going to happen unless you do a lot of volume,
mm,
okay? Because it's a penny business,
mm,
which means it takes a lot of pennies to get to where you got to go. And that's just the makeup of what this industry is about. And that's typically what a lot of people get disillusioned after they see how much money they're going to make. Then, but I got to put up all this money to make this amount of money,
mm,
and then they kind of like, I don't, I can't see it. Okay.
mm,
So a lot of people shy away. It is a business of volume, not of, lifestyle.
mm. How do you feel about entrepreneurs and business owners congregating and formulating their own brainstorming groups? And do you think brainstorming groups is very beneficial for entrepreneurs to basically grow to the next level?
Say that again.
How you feel about entrepreneurs and business owners formulating their own brainstorming groups to grow to the next level?
Well, those exist
Mm,
already. Um, and and it exists in the African American community as well. Um, I've seen them. I've been a part of some. It's you share stories. You share the same issues, which is all positive. On the other side of that, you still have, I mean, it's good to collaborate.
Mhm.
And it's the same as collaborating in the associations that I talked about earlier, where you have the Petroleum Association or Broadcasting Association, where people of like minds are, congregate, and in the same industry congregate. And in the petroleum industry, they have subgroups of CEOs that meet in smaller groups. They have families that meet in smaller groups because petroleum is a family-owned business for the most part, or for a large part. People don't know that. And then you've got other like a CFO group, an attorneys group, and they're all from the petroleum industry. So
Mhm.
they're share groups that share information that basically helps educate us, in issues that we have in those little categories even. So it's a great concept and it's one that's being used uh, today.
Mm, absolutely. People have to basically, control what's going on inside their head, and you have to develop the right mindset and develop that champion mindset if you really want to win in the game of business. Steve, let's talk about the power of using video. Now, I know a couple years back, Google bought YouTube for $1.6 billion. So video is hot right now. Can you explain to the audience the power of using video? And should entrepreneurs and business owners use video to expand their brand?
Well, I think social media has, played its hand tremendously in our society today, and pretty much well known that social media is a means of getting your messages out. Again, demonstrating that of our former president is another good example of what that social media can do.
Mm.
Um, if you look at how we utilize video even in our website, I think it tells stories that you don't necessarily get out of words. It gives you insights into the organization. So you really are able to do more uh, if you're able to see something versus just reading something. Okay. And I believe that we do a pretty good job at it. I think that utilizing Zoom like we're using right now, we actually use Teams
Mm.
uh, to operate our business now that everybody is remote.
Mm.
And, it allows us to communicate to the entire team collectively or individually all day long. And in those particular cases, it's a really uh, you have to learn how to utilize it as a tool in your business to manage your business in a environment where everybody's not in the same building anymore.
Mm.
So it's been quite effective, and fortunately for us, we were able to move in that direction very quickly when the country began to shut down this time last year.
Yes, the owner of the Zoom brand, his equity has skyrocketed. His equity is worth like $1 billion ever since the COVID pandemic took place, and people are, doing business remotely, and that's powerful. That his stock just went through the roof.
Yeah.
Steve, I wrote down some powerful words, 10 being the highest and one being the lowest, so you can rate them in your own influential way. Are you ready?
Okay.
Accountability,
10,
perseverance,
10,
family,
10,
love,
10.
intellectual property,
Hmm, you can get it. it would be close to an 8 or 9, but most of us won't have it, so it's only about a 5.
Generational
No,
wealth.
it don't rate in one of those got to be's. Okay, it's
Mm,
good, a really good to have, but you got to have those other things. Generational wealth is again a very high want to be.
mhm,
This in our community is just not a common, it's just not common in our community.
mm. Health,
Very high, 10.
wealth,
A wannabe, 8,
money,
8.
value,
Values as to what you truly believe and operate yourself based off of your values, that should be a 10.
mm. Culture,
It's pretty high, about an 8, 9.
income producing assets,
A 7,
reading,
7.
comfortability,
What? Culpability?
comfortability.
Comfort?
Yes.
Or 5? You're not
Mm.
going to be comfortable if you're in business. You got to expect that.
Thinking outside the box,
That's about a 9 in my book.
top line revenue,
About a 4.
EBITDA,
About a 7, 8,
cash flow,
7, 8,
building great relationships,
7, 8,
integrity,
9, 10,
dignity,
9, 10.
loyalty,
About a 8, 9,
trustworthy,
9, 10,
God,
10,
President Joe Biden.
8, 9.
All right, that was good. That was real good, Steve. Can you explain to the audience exactly where they can find you?
www.hightowerspetroleum.com.
Mm. To everyone that's listening and watching right now, I highly recommend get involved with the phenomenal Steve Hightower and go to his website. He has incredible insight that could take your mindset and your business to a whole nother level. But remember, you have to implement what you learn. Steve, can you explain to an audience what do you like to do for fun?
Uh, I like to be with my wife. I
Mm,
like my family. I like to camp. I like to vacation. I like to dance. I like to, pretty much have fun. Chill.
mm. Well, we covered a lot of ground here, and you basically was actually educating me and the audience about the blueprint on how you can actually excel in the petroleum industry. And I really appreciate you coming on and conveying that value to my audience. Steve, I'd like to thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the audience worldwide about how Towers Petroleum and about what it really takes to become a successful in any business industry. I gladly appreciate it. You are a gift from God.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you having me, and hello to your audience.
Do you have any last pearls of wisdom for the audience?
Um, I would just say, find your dream, go after it, be relentless, have the tenacity never to stop, and get through the days, like I say, the days that looks like it's not, that you don't even want to see tomorrow. Believe me, when you go to sleep, wake up, tomorrow will be here, and you just go do it again.
Mm, wow. Yeah, I have to get you coming back on the platform one more time so we can get more in depth about these wealth building principles. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you very much, man. And we'll be talking. All right.
To everyone that's listening and watching right now, get involved with the phenomenal Steve Hightower and go to his website. He has incredible information that'll change your current situation if you're really serious about getting into the gas and oil industry. So to everyone that's listening and watching right now, remember that the strongest asset that each and every one of you have is your brain and what you think about and what you take action on that will become your reality, and your mentality creates your reality. May God bless each and every one of you, and bye for now. Thank you, Steve Hightower. I really appreciate you conveying value to my platform.
Thank you very much, man. Talk to you later.
Have a pleasant day, everyone. To everyone that was listening and watching, I hope you actually took notes. And if you're really serious about getting into the gas and oil industry, Steve Hightower is the man to follow. And go to his phenomenal website, hightowerspetroleum.com. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn your notifications on. I'm going to be publishing more successful interviews from these business icons. If you're thinking about growing your business, if you're thinking about scaling your business, or even you think about starting your business, don't forget to subscribe, because I'm going to be publishing more powerful content that's going to help you to excel to the next level and also getting your mind right. Once again, this is Arthur Robinson Jr., and I really appreciate every one of you tuning in to my live interview streams. Remember, God loves you, and so do I. And bye for now.